My name is Mandy Vaughn, and I am known as Mandy Vaughn Knits on Ravelry and Instagram. I am here to talk to you about yarn and knitting and crochet. A tiny bit of machine knitting, although lately I've been kind of lax in that department. I've just been doing so many different things all at once that if I had an extra 8 sets of hands, it'd probably do me a lot of good. But I love to crochet, and I learned how to crochet first, and then I learned how to knit, and I love how to knit as I love to knit as well. And I spend a lot of my crafting time either making sweaters or cardigans for myself or for my kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. We live in Michigan, and around here it's winter a good 6 months of the year, or at least it seems that way. I generally tend to stick with lightweight yarn. My favorite weight of yarn is definitely fingering, and most of my sweaters and garments are made from that. For my little kids, I'll knit worsted for them because they don't overheat as much as I do, but I am definitely one who runs warm, so I have to stick with the lightweight. In fact, what I'm wearing right now is Always There by Joji Locatelli, and this is probably one of my heaviest items that I have. This is a DK weight, and I knit it last year for the Joji Locatelli Make-a-thon, and I love it. It's nice and squishy. It was knit with Barocco Vintage DK. I believe that's what it was, and I love the color, and I love how comfy it is, and I love the shaping, and it's just one of my favorite things to wear. Right now it is Sunday. It is the weekend after Labor Day? Yeah, it was Labor Day. I always get Labor Day and Memorial Day confused. The weekend after Labor Day weekend, so it is the 7th-ish, around then. I don't know, but it's Sunday, and it's about 7:30 at night, so it's getting kind of dark outside. I'm not looking forward to the work week just because, you know, who looks forward to the work week when the weekend's so awesome and you just get to relax and, you know, have time to knit and craft and do all of those things. This week is going to be kind of hectic for me, but I'll get into that later. I know you guys are here to talk about knitting and crafting. So I do have 2 finished objects, and I've started another object, and I've worked quite a bit on my Joji Locatelli See You There cabled cardigan. So I've been working on making hats for my kids because, like I said, Michigan, cold weather, everybody needs hats. And I've went through the yarn that I have, and I started picking out like different brands, not even brands, different types of yarn. So I will grab, you know, these skeins. They're the same type, and I'm just going to grab them and we're going to make hats with them. It's an interesting way to get rid of yarn that I have, different like groupings of yarn that I have, and to use them up and just to make hats with them, or, you know, do whatever. Earlier in August, I made them both sweaters out of a different type of yarn that I had. But this weekend I chose Colorina, which is an acrylic yarn by Hobie. And now the Ravelry page says that it's DK. No, it's not DK. It is most definitely fingering. I know I can say this with almost 99.8% authority that this yarn is most definitely fingering, because I knit with fingering all the time, and I can tell an immense difference when I knit with DK. It's almost like knitting yarn twice. It's basically knitting yarn twice as thick as what I normally knit with. So I could definitely tell how by how slow these hats crocheted up that they were knit with fingering. So this isn't this cute? It's this is actually crochet. This is like a basket weave crochet. And I've never done a hat like this. And I've never done this stitch either. I thought this was so neat. If you watched last week, this was the rainbow colorina skein that I showed. And this was just basically a beanie that I knit for my daughter. It's tight fitting, and it's just something that she can wear because she's got oversized hats. She has normal, just normal sized hats, and this is kind of more of a snug fit one. So I'm hoping that she'll get some use from this. She really loves the colors, and I don't blame her. I think that this came out really pretty. And I'm very excited to try this stitch in different yarn weights, because I think with the fingering, I was expecting it to crochet up a little bit faster than it was. Because it was fingering, it wasn't going as fast. So that was kind of frustrating to me, which is of course nothing to do with the yarn or the pattern. It's more that I wanted it to be done so that I could I don't know, after a while knitting and crocheting hats just gets kind of old. I like to knit sweaters, right? So whenever I'm working on a sweater and my kids still need hats and I'm making them hats still, I'm like crocheting while dreaming in my mind about knitting the hat or the sweater. So this was also done in colorina. This one is a little bit different. This is for my son. This is a mosaic stitch. And I had a lot of fun making this. This is, first of all, this pattern right here is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I will put the name of the pattern down below because I cannot remember what it was called for the life of me or who wrote it. But it was a good pattern, but this pattern was written for worsted weight, and so was this one. So rather than find a pattern that would have worked for, the yarn that I had, I just basically looked around and found the pattern that I wanted and kind of just modified it. For some reason, I felt like being difficult. This is a mosaic stitch, and I made this by watching a Bag-A-Day crochet tutorial on it, and it was made with a medium weight yarn, but I used, like I said, a fingering. I just basically made it longer and a little bit wider, just typical things that you would do. Obviously, if you're using a smaller weight yarn, you have to make a little bit of modifications as you go along. Also, I did like a front post, back post ribbing just because I like working those. I like the way that it ends up looking. My son was really excited about this one. He actually picked out the pattern because we were looking through Bag-A-Day crochet tutorials, and he stopped me as I'm scrolling past them, showing him the hats, and he's like, oh, I like this one. So this hat was basically made with the light gray and the dark gray yarn in a mosaic crochet stitch, and I like the way that it came out. It's very much my son's color palette now. He's more of like a dark neutral type, whereas like I like and my daughter likes, the pink, the purple, the blue, and things like that. So those were the two hats that I knit for my kiddos. I know they're super excited about winter, or at least my daughter is. She's a big fan of like the snow and kids love Christmas. Kids love holidays. Kids love like anything to do with winter, right? At least my kids do. I'm not a big fan of it. I could like completely go from August to like June, and it just seems like whenever it starts getting darker earlier, and like you start work and it's dark, and then work ends and it's dark, it's a lot, and that's like 6 months. So yeah, ugh. That was all for the finished objects that I've done, but I have been trying to use through this this Karen anniversary cake that I got last week. Yeah, it was last weekend. So if you aren't aware, these are available at Michael's, and they're huge, and I think it's a bulky or a super bulky. Let me see what kind of hook I'm using here. This is a 9mm, a US M13. Wow. Okay, so 9mm, and it's a ton of yarn. So I've been working on basically making a rectangle granny square blanket. And I have no idea how big it's going to be. When I had first got this cake, I had figured, hey, this is huge. This is gonna make a big blanket, right? But I've been looking through certain people, like different people's comments on Ravelry and Facebook, talking about how much this actually knits up. It's supposed to make like a baby blanket for one, and people will usually use 2 of them for like a throw. So I might end up having to go get another one of these. Yeah, probably. Look, okay, so I have this much left, and I'm like right here. It's not very wide. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But I mean, it's coming out super soft and super nice. And I do love making these blankets because in the end, it's just like once you get the pattern down and you're on the repeat, it's so easy and so mindless. Definitely just love going around and around. And this is a rectangle, it's not a square like I typically make. I'm actually wondering if it's kind of going to be, let's see. It's really skinny compared to how, do you see what I mean? It's really wide here and then super skinny. So it's almost like a really skinny rectangle. I mean, if worse comes to worse, I can always take one cake and finish this off and then do the exact same thing and make another one and then just sew them together. That wouldn't be weird. It's just like 2 rectangles together, right? I followed a pattern that was on Yarnspirations. I found it on Ravelry, so I will put it down below so that you can find it yourself. And it was a good pattern. It was super easy. Once you got past like row 6, it's basically just doing the same thing over and over again. I think that when I crochet, I really like the same, I don't want to say boring, but it's comforting. Do you know what I mean? To me, making just a granny square is super comforting because you don't have to look at any instructions, you don't have to think, you just, you know what to do. After so many times doing it, you can just do other things. I love to listen to audiobooks while I crochet or knit, and I've been listening to quite a few of them lately, so that's been fun. But I'm really excited about it, and I think that my daughter will be too. And to be honest, this is crocheting up super fast here. It seems like it was almost, this is like half of what's in here. So that's crazy to me. And I only crocheted on this like, I'm gonna say like a day, like maybe a day and a half of, not obviously not straight crocheting, but like an hour at night and then like an hour the next day. So like 2 hours, that's pretty good. So if you're looking to make a fast blanket, especially like a baby blanket right here, I would definitely say that's a good yarn to grab. Just make sure you get it on sale because it's kind of a lot whenever it's not. The main item that I've been working on, like as much as I can during the week, has been my See You There by Joji Locatelli, because this is where my heart is. Now, on Saturday, today was Sunday, so yesterday I bound off for the ribbing. So you could see there's even this really pretty fake seam right here. And you can see the panel. I love this so much. And you know what? Last week I was very worried that it was going to be like too heavy. And I think that it's going to be fine. It does not seem like it's all that much heavier than this one. And this doesn't bother me all that much, so I wouldn't go heavier than that. I've made worsted weight cardigans before and I've had to give them away. I made oh drats, I forget what it is called. I will look it up and put it right down below. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cardigan, and it is amazing. And it was like my magnum opus knit, because I started it about 3 years into my knitting journey, maybe 2, and I had to put it away because it was just too much. It was very difficult for me at that point in time. So I put it away for about a half of a year and then grabbed it back out, and I was able to finish it, and I was so proud of myself. I knit it in Cascade 220, and it was just too much for me. And that is such a shame because it had cables everywhere. Like, I loved it. I keep wanting to re-knit it in a lighter yarn, and I could probably do that, but it was a lot. So I'm gonna stick with this one for now. This is also super pretty. And this back panel right here is very simple, but it's probably, so far, it's been, so you start from here and you knit. When you get to this panel right here, that's probably the slowest part of the row. I mean, obviously. And then when you purl back, everything's just basically, the instructions are, you know, knit the knits, or well, yeah, knit, just carry on the pattern basically. So if you can cable, you should be able to figure this one out pretty easily. There's nothing too earth-shattering, and I really do like the way that these look. Now, I was also worried that it wasn't going to fit, and yeah, it does fit fine. I was able to try it on. I actually tried it on when it was probably right here, and that was fine. And then obviously I've tried it on since I've bound off. I'm planning on this week going to pick up the sleeve, at least one sleeve, and knit that down, and then hopefully I can get the other sleeve. But I don't know, this week is going to be crazy. I have 2 doctor's appointments, and it's just going to be a mess because the doctor's appointments are each at a hospital that's about 40 minutes away, so it's a drive. And if you know, if you've ever dealt with like chronic illness or just not feeling well, it's a lot to just go 40 minutes away twice a week. It's gonna be a bit, like a little bit for me. Actually, during my appointments, I don't know if I'm going to bring this or if I'm going to cast on another hat. I've been really wanting to try one of Joji Locatelli's hat patterns, and it's really cute, and I cannot remember the name, so I will put it down below, but it is striped on one side and then not striped on the other side, and it just makes my heart happy to see like asymmetrical anything. I don't know why that appeals to me so much, but I very much enjoy asymmetrical designs and patterns. And I was looking through Little Knits. They're a yarn website that has great deals on a whole bunch of different yarns. And I had found this yarn that I had never heard of before, and I wanted to try it. Well, they also had some patterns for this yarn, and one of the patterns was a sweater with basically color blocking on one side, and then the other side was very geometric, and I very much appreciate things like that. Anyways, my See You There is knit with Hobie's Pearly Haze, and it's a chainette yarn, and it's pretty lightweight. Now, at this stage right here, I just broke into the 5th ball, and let me show you right here. See, do you see this? I ran out of yarn during a bind off. I don't think that's ever happened to me ever. So I actually opened up a new yarn ball just to finish the bind off there, which I thought was awkward. It's just not something I ever even really considered. I was trying to knit the ribbing as much as I could without running out of yarn, and the ribbing that I did on this was twisted 1 by 1. The pattern calls for 2 by 2, and I'm pretty sure it's just knit 2, purl 2 with no twists. But generally, I ignore whatever's in the pattern for ribbing and just do a 1 by 1 twisted because I really like the way that it looks. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that they really do like 2 by 2 ribbing, but I honestly think that I've only knit it maybe once or twice while making a sock. I wonder if it's as stretchy as this. I wonder if it's stretchier. I should do that. I should do some, like an experiment just to see the different properties of ribbing. Maybe I will like 2 by 2. You know what I mean? How do you know if you've never tried? But I'm really excited about this. After I knit the sleeves down, and I'm sure there's decreases on the sleeve. This is a very fitted garment compared to like this. This is definitely not fitted, but this is a fitted cardigan. So there'll be sleeve decreases, and hopefully the sleeves won't be too big of a deal. I have noticed that since this is like a DK weight yarn, it knits up super fast compared to what I'm used to working with. This is very fast. So that was another nice kind of bonus for making it. The details on the sweater are so pretty. Now, she has a couple of cabled cardigans, Joji Locatelli, and another one that she has is called the Grandpa's cardigan. Yeah, it's Grandpa cardigan, and I've also really had my eye on that. This one is knit in worsted. The yarn weight that I used was They say it's worsted, but I think that's pushing it. I really think it's closer to like a DK. I have some Malabrigo that is supposed to be a really light DK that I might try to use for the grandpa cardigan, but I'm not sure yet. Whenever I went to Frankenmuth, Michigan this year, I went into a yarn store called Rapunzel's Boutique, and they had a whole bunch of Malabrigo, and I love all the Malabrigo colors. One that I saw that I loved was, I don't know how you would say, I'm going to go with cyan, C-I-A-N, and it looks exactly like cyan, so it is beautiful. The problem with it was that they had 3 skeins, and in order to make the cardigan that I want to make, I'm probably going to need 4. I might be able to get away with 3, but I did get a contrasting, like a contrasting color, and I'm not sure if it was like a purple greenish. That sounds right. But I was going to do the cuffs and then the bottom ribbing and maybe even the neck and just the contrasting. But in true, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants fashion, I will most definitely probably provisional cast on whatever I knit with it, just because I might very well be able to knit the sleeves like 3/4 length and maybe make the body a little shorter. I might be able to knit with just 3 of the skeins and get away with it if I, cross my fingers and knit really fast. But this is pretty much what I've been working on this entire week. I'm hoping that once I get the sleeves done, now let's see. Once I get the sleeves done, I have 2 things left. I have the button band and I have the hood. Now, I haven't really given much thought to the hood, right? Because I wear hoodies all the time, but I don't know if well, I'm gonna make it anyways, but I don't know how much wear I'll get out of the hood on the cardigan. And if I wasn't doing it as part of a make-along, I might even skip it. But I'm gonna keep with it to stay consistently to pattern, and because the hood won't really bother me. But like I said, this was 5, I just opened the 5th ball for this, 5th ball of 50 gram weight. So 50 gram, they say it's worsted, but it's more like DK-ish yarn. But that's what I've been working on this week, and I've also joined the pigskin party that Boston Jen puts on every year. This is my 2nd year doing it, and I am in Team 5. I've been really excited about that. I love basically talking to teammates and hearing what everybody has to say about the tailgate challenge questions, and just seeing everybody's knitting and what they're making and focused on. And my husband loves like football, college football, all football. I'm more of a hockey person, so I'll start to get excited around October when hockey comes back, but I could take or leave football, unfortunately. I do like, we will sit down at night and he'll watch it, and I'll just sit and knit and watch with him though. So I think that's pretty nice. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to talk just a tiny bit about life and the books I read and what I've been watching on TV, and that's pretty much all of the knitting. So if that's all you wanted to see, I'll catch you later, and thank you for coming. But for life, like I said, I have 2 doctor's appointments this week. I have one to go see the infectious disease doctor it's more of a checkup than anything. They want to keep their eye on me because I will be on oral antibiotics for an extended period of time, just to make sure that my septic arthritis and everything stays away. So that's a 40-minute drive, which I will probably get some sort of knitting done or crocheting, I guess, depending. I still have some of the Colorina yarn. I have a lot of the Colorina yarn. This didn't even take one of them, and this didn't take one of them. So I have probably, I would say, a skein and like a quarter of each of the color groups, like my daughter color groups and my son color groups. So I'm sure I'll be able to find something to knit or crochet with them. I know that my son really likes the idea of mixing that light gray with the dark gray, so I might make him another one of those easy ombre hats, but I'll have to cast that on before we go. My second doctor's appointment is on Friday, and that's to go see my neurosurgeon. And I got the results from my myelogram, and we went back and forth for a couple of weeks because he had to talk to a neuroradiologist, and he went to go talk to a neurologist, and he was consulting a bunch of different doctors inside of the hospital system because he wasn't really sure what he was seeing, or rather he wanted to clarify what he was seeing. But the gist of it is that when I was 10, they removed a spinal tumor from my back, the lower lumbar spine, and they gave me radiation therapy, and it laid dormant. And this was, I was 10 and I'm 38 now, so it was however many years that is. But it's been dormant for all that time, and now my MRIs are showing activity. And when I had my myelogram, they basically let me know that I have a complete myelographic block in below my L1 vertebrae. Yeah, that's what you would say. So there's, my nerves are being blocked, which makes a lot of sense as to why I've slowly gone paralyzed in the last 8 years. Now, as to why no one ever told me or said, hey, your scans are looking kind of bad, because I've had about 1 million MRIs since 2011-ish. Nobody ever really mentioned it or said anything. So that's where I am now. I'm going to meet the neurosurgeon to talk about having a resection surgery if it's needed. He's going to basically, he explained it as he'll go in and see what's going on, because he doesn't necessarily believe that after this many years the tumor is suddenly, spring to life. But there's something that's going on, and I have a bunch of arachnoid cysts in my spine that he is also going to drain. Now, draining the cysts has potential of giving me mobility back. So right now I'm in a wheelchair, and any little tiny bit helps. So we're planning basically on having the surgery. We're just going to talk to him and see what the recovery time is like. He told me when I talked to him on the phone, it was about 6 weeks. But I mean, is that 6 weeks of laying down flat? Or is that like a couple of days in the hospital and then I can come home and work from home, and as long as I'm not too crazy, I can, sit up and carry on. But so that's what my second appointment is for. The books that I've read this week. Oh man. So Okay, hang on. Let me bring them up because I'm never going to remember. So I'm reading a book right now, and it is by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I hope that's right. I hope I'm saying that right. It is called Eyes of the Void. So I love this author because he wrote or he or she, I honestly don't know. They wrote a series called Children of Memories, I believe it was, and it's such a good story. This is Eyes of the Void is basically a sci-fi space opera. It is about I'm gonna go ahead and say it reminds me kind of like a Star Wars-ish galaxy where when the story starts, it is like 50 years from a war, and Earth, humanity, like the race of space, everyone, because there's all different kinds of races. So aliens as a whole and humanity, they were being targeted by these giant beings called architects that would basically just fillet planets and cause all sorts of destruction, and it's just a great story. Now I just started that, so I'm about, let's see, Audible says I'm on chapter 6. I started that like a couple of days ago. Since last week, I've listened to The Outsiders by Stephen King. You'll notice the books that I listen to are either sci-fi for the most part or horror. The Outsiders was about like a demon-like creature that impersonated somebody or other people, and then it was interesting. It wasn't my favorite from him, but I did enjoy listening to it. Now, what else did I read? I've listened to I Am Number 4, and I forget who wrote that. I'll put it down below. But it was a young adult story. It is about, it's another sci-fi, I guess you would say. It's about a race of aliens that send their children to Earth because another alien race like takes over their planet and ruins everything. So they send, I think, 9, a number of kids, and they each have a number. So 1, 2, 3, and they have to be killed in the order of their number or else they're all safe. So it's an interesting series. It was cute. I appreciated it. I'm trying to think of what else I read. I read The Last House on Needless Street. Wow. That is a very triggering book. It was good. It was very hard to follow at times, and I don't suggest reading it if things like children being hurt I mean, it obviously bothers you, but if you can't read about that, I wouldn't suggest this book. It is about a mother who just screws up her son very badly for, it was just an interesting story. It starts off explaining about how this girl disappears, and you meet these characters and these other characters, and eventually you figure, I can't even explain it without giving it away, but it is an interesting book, and it's very psychological if you appreciate that stuff. But I'm hoping that the Adrian Tchaikovsky book that I'm reading, The Shards of the, what is it called? The Eyes of the Void. Sorry, the first one has shards in it. Eyes of the Void takes me a little bit. It's gotta be like 20 or so hours. That's generally, I try to, whenever, because I only get one Audible credit a month, I try to pick like the longest book that I can find because I know I'm gonna just go through it really quick. I've also started using Libby, and that's where I found like The Outsider and The Last House on Needless Street. Oh, another book that I'm reading is one that's called The Book Eaters. Wow. That is a really interesting book so far. I'm only a couple of chapters into it. It's about, they say that aliens brought these people to Earth and they eat books and survive on eating books. And I guess some of them don't eat books. They want to eat human brains. That's pretty much where I am right now. I haven't really listened to much more than that. But it's an interesting prospect. I really like reading the books that will either make you think or are just different. As for watching, I'm not really a big TV watching person. I do love watching knitting podcasts, and the last week we watched One Piece, the live action, which led me to start rewatching One Piece, the anime, because I've watched all the episodes up until about maybe a year ago, and then we canceled the streaming service that we had, but I've restarted watching them, and my husband's been watching them with us. So that's pretty much it. I'm not into most of the popular like shows and stuff. I'd much rather spend my time reading and knitting. But, well, that's all I have for this time. No new yarn, and at least no new yarn that showed up yet. I did buy a couple of skeins of some bulkier weight yarn from Lion Brand because I ran across this pattern. It is called the Friend to Friend Shrug. The Friend to Friend. It's a shrug. It's so pretty. And the pattern had called for some Hue in Me. Super bulky, I believe. So I picked up a couple of those from Lion Brand's website, and I'm really excited to try those. I tend to shy away from shawls because of the wheelchair, but this shrug, it like goes on over your head, and then it's so pretty. And you know what? I never thought I'd love something like that, but I saw it and I'm like, wow, that really speaks to me. So keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully I'll be able to, it will be comfortable for me to wear and won't bother my back or my shoulders too much. I don't think that it will. It's just sometimes with like the bulkier weight yarn, it kind of weighs down on my muscles a little. Anyway, I hope that you guys had some fun listening to me, and I hope that you got some knitting done. I will be back hopefully next weekend, and hopefully with a finished cardigan. Maybe everything except the hood. I don't know. We'll have to see. It depends on if I bring this with me to the appointments or if I cast on a hat of some sort. But at least more finished than it is right now. If this was interesting to you, please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button or both. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for stopping by. Bye.